Welcome back to the Wrestle Rewind show with your host Max.
Vitamin J.
And what we do is recap every week between WCW Monday Night Nitro and WWF Monday Night Raw, and we let you know who won that week. And first, we'll go ahead and just dive right in. We'll start with Monday Night Nitro, and we are on August 5th of 1996. And we are still at Disney yet again. It's almost a month that we've been at Disney now. But to start off, following last week's events, the WCW wrestlers come out and they surround the ring in an effort to protect their fellow WCW superstars. And Shivani tells us that the WCW is united against the NWO.
Yeah, I did kind of like that they had the wrestlers out there, but I was thinking also, I was like, man, they had to sit there for a while. No, they're probably bored to tears. Because you saw, I think Mang was out there, Scott Norton, Bubba. It was just interesting seeing those guys in the crowd playing security. But, I mean, I like what they're going for. They're showing that, security's not enough. We need wrestlers to help out against this threat. If you're going to have security, Mang and Barbarian are the first two guys you probably hire.
But all right, let's go ahead and go to the first match, which I'm sure you'll love, Jacob. It is the Rock and Roll Express versus Harlem Heat with Sensational Sherry. And along with Sherry comes out Colonel Robert Parker, and he's sporting some freshly dyed brown hair. He went away from the silver locks.
Well, probably just trying to look younger for Sherry or something because they're still together at this time.
I think so too, and it plays into the match because at one point Sherry and Rob Parker are talking to each other, not paying attention to the match. So Booker T yells at them to pay attention, and this causes a distraction, which almost allows Robert Gibson to get a 3 count on Booker T. Could you imagine that Rock and Roll Express won the tag team titles?
In '96, no, that would have been a crime. I mean, honestly, I don't know why I keep bringing them out.
Yeah, they're not involved in any storylines or anything, and the crowds, I mean, they get a respectful applause, but it's not like anyone's too excited to see them.
I mean, everybody knows the formula for Rock and Roll Express is Morton, plays the face in peril, then hot tag to Gibson. You can say that about a lot of wrestlers, but I don't know, it kind of gets tiring in a tag match.
Do you have anything before I get to the finish?
No.
All right, let me just get into it. So later in the match, Robert Gibson goes to pin Booker T, but the ref is distracted by Stevie Ray. So then Sherry gets on the apron and she breaks up the pin. And then Gibson pushes Sherry, who falls down. And then Robert Parker gets upset. He's defending his woman's honor, which is kind of a jerk move, Mr. Gibson. Yeah, he jumps on the apron and he's going to give Robert Gibson a piece of his mind.
I'll defend her too.
Yeah, and that distraction allows Stevie Ray to hit the scissors kick on Robert Gibson, and then Booker T pins him for the win. So again, the match itself is kind of, like you said, it's kind of the same thing we've seen before with the Rock and Roll Express, also with the repetitiveness of the Harlem Heat matches at this time with the double manager distractions.
Glad you brought that up. It's the same formula. I just don't know why they can't have the Harlem Heat go over clean because they're two big dudes. And there's nothing to gain by having the Rock and Roll Express lose and kind of like a distraction just because it's like you're not going to do anything Rock and Roll Express. So it would help the Harlem Heat just to beat them clean.
But that's it for the first match. And after that, we get a ramp interview with the Nasty Boys. Mean Gene asks Brian Knobbs about Hulk Hogan. Knobbs says Hogan does what he wants, and the Nasty Boys do what they want. Knobbs says, once a friend, always a friend, and it's a free country, and everyone has their own opinion. Sag starts to speak, but then Sting and Lex Luger walk out, and they ask the Nasty Boys where they stand. Sag says they stand in Nastyville. So Knobbs tells them that it's none of their business, and then Lex Luger responds by saying it is their business tonight. So it looks like we have a match.
It's gonna get nasty.
So after that interview, we get another Glacier video. He is still coming, we promise. We said it was gonna be in July, but we're in August now. We'll see when he comes.
Just to let you know, Glacier count is 15 weeks.
He's coming, though. He's coming.
He's coming.
But our second match is, now pardon the pronunciation, Malia Hosaka with Sonny Ono versus Medusa. There's not much to this match, but at one point, Hosaka has a real hard time getting the figure 4 applied to Medusa. She lets it go, and then she applies another leg hold, and it looked kind of painful. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but I'll put it on the screen. But then as the match continues, we see a black limo pull up, and then after we see that, we cut back to the match where we see Sonny Ono jumps on the apron. So Medusa goes to handle him. She drop kicks him off the apron, and then Hosaka jumps on top of Medusa to pin her, while Sonny Ono holds Medusa's legs down for the win.
I have no idea how or why they had Medusa lose this match. Did she piss someone off backstage? You bring her in, have her scrap the title, big moment, and then you have her lose to Sherry. Yeah, she lost to Parker, and now she's listening to Malia Hosaka, who's good, but WCW's not going to do anything with her. Like, to me, if I was booking, I'd be feeding Medusa some wins. It just proves that no wrestling company, at least American at this time, knew how to book women.
No, well, on WCW's part, like we mentioned, it doesn't make sense because Medusa is the one they paid to be a full-time character there. These other women are wrestling for other companies, so why not build your own? But yeah, so yeah, it's just our usual frustration with how WCW books Medusa. But what else is new? So after that, we will go ahead and go to Raw, where our first match is Jerry the King Lawler versus Aldo Montoya. Yeah, if you're not excited for that, I don't know what you'll get excited for. But before the match, King does get on the mic and he makes fun of Jake the Snake some more. And he also calls Aldo Montoya Jake's designated driver. And he tells Aldo that Jake's alcohol rubbed off on him and King got high off the fumes. And that's the only reason Aldo beat him last time.
He said tonight he's got Jake's tag partner, Jim Beam, with him, and he wants to give Aldo as a gift.
Yeah. He even pulls it out. He shows it to him.
Aldo Montoya proves he's an absolute moron because Jerry King Lawler tosses the mic to Aldo, and I think it falls to the ground. And Aldo, he's like, oh, Jerry Lawler, he's so trustworthy. He's going to let me bend down and pick this microphone up, right? No. So he gets attacked as he goes to pick it up. Idiot. But of course, the guy who wears a jockstrap on his face isn't going to be the smartest.
After the King tricks Aldo Montoya, he pile drives him twice and he picks up a quick win. And then after the match, King punches Aldo Montoya some more and then pours the bottle of Jim Beam on Aldo. And then he yells at the camera, telling Jake Roberts to not get jealous. And he wasted that whole damn bottle. I hope it wasn't real liquor in there.
Oh, I bet it was real.
It probably was. But yeah, that's a quick first match for Raw, but we'll go ahead and go back to Nitro. And we will go to our third match. It is Alex Wright versus Chris Benoit with Woman and Miss Elizabeth. During this match, Jimmy Hart comes out and he goes to talk with Woman. Jimmy Hart's trying to get Woman to lead the Horsemen, but Woman does not want to go and join the Dungeon of Doom. And they're doing that because they're just trying to tease that real life relationship between Woman and Kevin Sullivan. But Malenko also comes out and he grabs a Woman and he tries to pull her away. And during this whole commotion, Benoit sees it and he dives out of the ring and goes after Malenko, which gets him counted out. Malenko and Benoit continue fighting after the match. And in a spot you don't see every day, Benoit Irish whips Malenko into a tree.
Oh, yeah. Because there's that little tree that's like in the middle. All the wrestlers have to walk around it.
Jimmy Hart was telling Woman that Miss Elizabeth was useless and that Benoit would never win a title. And he tells Woman that she is driving the Taskmaster crazy. And this storyline is going to get a lot weirder as we continue on. But yeah, Alex Wright picks up the rare W. So for the fourth match, we have Steven Regal versus Macho Man Randy Savage. And this match happens near the 2-hour countdown, and Tony Schiavone tells us that Bischoff and Heenan have not shown up for their announcing duties, so we will not have the announcer switch. And they're asking, did the NWO do something to them? Interesting. We'll find out. But during this match, Sting and Lex Luger come to the ringside, and they sit in the seats that were reserved for the NWO members. They just stole their seats.
What if they were coming to sit out right there? Then it'd be an awkward situation of someone being in your seats. Can't do it, man. It's just rude.
But during the match, Savage takes Regal outside the ring and he throws him in the chairs that the NWO members had reserved. So I thought that was funny. He just threw him right between Sting and Lex Luger.
Honestly, what's your standard Savage match at this point?
Macho Man wins. He wins this match with the flying elbow drop, and this was not a bad match. I thought it was actually pretty good, but we're not going to do blow by blow. But after the match, Sting and Lex Luger go take a walk towards that limo that pulled up a little bit earlier. They open the door to the limo and they take out a bouquet that was in there, and there's a letter on the bouquet, and it reads, "Condolences on the death of WCW."
What heels?
Those bastards. Very interesting. Mean Gene, let's get to the bottom of it. And so he does. So we have an in-ring interview with Macho Man. And Mean Gene tells Macho Man that he is the challenger to the winner of the WCW Championship match, as long as he doesn't show up at Hog Wild. Macho Man tells us he had to cut that deal because he had his back to the wall. Because a few weeks ago, he told Hogan that he wasn't going to make it to Hog Wild, so WCW's got to make a way for Hollywood Hogan to show up and Macho Man to not be there, and it makes sense. And I'm glad they did that, because if Macho Man had done all that talking the previous few weeks, talking about what the things he's going to do to Hogan and didn't show up, that I would have been pissed off. But Macho Man continues. He says he thinks the Giant will beat Hogan, but he tells the Giant to leave a little piece of Hogan and he will be there to finish him off. And then Gene mentions the bouquet to Macho Man, and Macho Man agrees with what was on the card. Macho Man says they are not shaking because it is the NWO style to never face up man-to-man, and they only do cheap shots. And he says that the NWO doesn't want any part of Sting and Lex Luger, and himself, of course. Sting comes up as well, and he says he doesn't think the outsiders are bad guys. He says the flowers that they sent were pretty flowers, but they wasted their money because it reads the death of WCW. But WCW is alive and well and will be for a long time. And then as they're leaving, Macho Man and Sting kick the bouquet. Sting was the holder and Macho Man was the kicker, and I believe it went straight through the middle. Field goal.
Oh, yeah, that was great. That was a great kick.
So, yeah, they are just not impressed with the NWO. I will mention this before we go to Raw. After a commercial break, we see the announcers again, and it's Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko. And I got to mention, Zbyszko is working up quite the sweat. It must be hot out there.
It's got to be Florida, it's humid probably. Dude, it's probably miserable out there.
I can't blame him. I think I'd be in the same situation. It would not be good for anybody. But we'll go back to Raw, and we got another barn burner for you. It is the New Rockers versus the Body Donnas. I tell you, these first two matches, must-see TV.
Yeah, and WWF was wondering at the time why people were watching WCW. Well, they weren't putting on the New Rockers versus Body Donnas, face Body Donnas at that.
It's just bad. The WWF also didn't care about this match enough to the point where we have two backstage segments during this match.
Yeah, and you got Hillbilly Jim on commentary. The Rockers attack Body Donnas as they make their entrance, and Vince's like, oh, they Pearl Harbored them. I swear, before I started watching 90s wrestling, I didn't really hear too much of the term someone getting Pearl Harbored. At least people don't use it nowadays. But I swear to God, in 90s wrestling, ECW, WWF, they say it all the time, especially Vince. Ever since I noticed that people were using the term, I just see it all over the place when I watch 90s wrestling. So they get an interview with Sonny and Farouk to build up his in-ring debut against Skip next week. So Sonny says she doesn't care what anyone thinks. She's getting what she wants, and her new man's going to teach everyone that Skip can't quite measure up. Wonder in what way.
I wonder how he felt hearing that, because that was his real-life girlfriend at the time.
Yeah. But, he can't measure up to Farouk. I think he knows that.
Farouk says he compares himself to a tiger, not a lion, because a tiger is a lone hunter, and tigers are man-eaters just like him. But the other backstage segment we have is with Clarence Mason and Gorilla Monsoon. And the gist of it is Gorilla Monsoon tells Clarence Mason that his client is reinstated, and again, his client is going to be crushed. As if the two backstage segments during the match didn't tell you that the WWF does not care about this match. Well, neither do we, so we'll go ahead and get to the finish. Skip hits a top rope hurricanrana on Leif Cassidy, and then Zip goes for a splash. But the Smoking Guns come out and beat up the Body Donnas, causing a DQ. And then the Godwins come out, and then they take care of the Guns, and the faces stand united against the heels. Beautiful.
Well, we can quickly go over this next WCW match because I refuse to talk about this man anymore.
Okay. So the fifth match of Nitro is going to be the Booty Man with the Booty Babe. You thought we were done with him, but we're not. Versus Ric Flair with Woman, Miss Elizabeth, and Deborah. Before you get into what you want to say, I will say that the Booty Babe says everyone is looking beautiful tonight.
It's just amazing that they still trotting out the Booty Man at this point. I don't know if there's one wrestler that I just do not care more about than Brutus Beefcake. I'm sorry to this man, but he's just not it.
I don't think you can find many people complaining about that take. Arn Anderson, after the attack from last week, he actually does come out late during Ric Flair's entrance. He comes out holding a chair, and he sits it down, and he faces the aisleway, keeping watch to make sure the outsiders don't interfere. And his arm is heavily taped to sell the attack from last week. But also during this match, Bobby Heenan comes down to the announce table, and he says he didn't come out earlier because he is not going to put himself in a compromising position. And he says that there is so much security here tonight, and he has been waiting for Bischoff, but he doesn't know what's going on. He tells them that he doesn't think Bischoff would miss the show for anything, so he doesn't know where he is. And then Heenan leaves saying he doesn't feel safe, so he's going to just not be here tonight.
I do like that because it kind of plays on, he was very protective of himself, especially after that neck injury, because it kind of, do you remember the Brian Pillman thing? So it makes total sense why Heenan wouldn't want to be out there.
Yeah, and it felt real because, like you said, he did have the real injury, and he was super, super protective of that. He had a real bad neck injury, apparently.
Yeah.
But also, this also says, where is Bischoff? What is Bischoff doing? Where'd he go? But back to the match. The finish to this match sees Ric Flair have the Booty Man in the figure 4, and he's holding the ropes, so he's cheating, of course. But then Mongo and Benoit come into the ring, jump on Booty Man, and continue to beat him up. They don't care about this match.
I got upset with this because they gave Booty Man DQ win. Why couldn't Flair have just won the figure 4 and then they come out and beat him up anyway? Like, I don't get it. Because if Flair had him beat, he was in the figure 4.
Well, I think the real reason you hate it is because it gives the Booty Man a dub in the win column.
I mean, yeah, but it just felt like unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
Arn Anderson comes in and he hits the Booty Man with a chair. And the announcers are saying that the Horsemen are attacking Booty Man because of his relationship to Hulk Hogan, and they are trying to send a message to the NWO. I kind of dig that explanation. It makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And after that, Flair puts the figure 4 on Booty Man again, and then Mean Gene comes into the ring, and I just love the way he does it. He's like, stop it! Stop that right now! The way he just shouts at wrestlers, this is so funny. But of course, this leads into an interview with the 4 Horsemen. Arn says that the NWO is trying to destroy the WCW, but that is a mistake. He says, if you hit a Horseman with a baseball bat, then you should finish the job. And he says the line that he loves to say, if you send one of ours to the hospital, we send one of yours to the morgue.
I do like it. I do like it.
Benoit has a turn here. He says it wasn't weakness they saw in his eyes last week, referencing his emotions last week after Arn got hurt. It was instead his fury of hatred, anger, and vengeance unleashed. I hate Benoit's promos, dude. I really do.
He should have been a guy that says like one line. Because the more he talks, the more you realize why he shouldn't talk.
Yep, I agree. Just dreadful. Mongo continues. He tells the outsiders that they need to get it together because he has been known to swing some metal around, and he tells them that if they feel the hairs on the back of their neck, it will be the Horsemen behind them.
I don't mind Mongo's promos. I think Mongo's a fun
compared to Benoit, Mongo is an absolute artist on a mic compared.
Yeah, he's a savant.
Flair, he is the last one to speak here. He tells Hogan that if you want his attention, he's got it. He made a mistake by hurting his best friend last week, and he crossed the line, and he says Hogan's going to pay the price. I think that's rich that Flair says Hogan crossed the line of all the things Flair's done.
Well, Flair being a hypocrite is far from surprising.
That is true. So that is that for the segment. I thought this was a pretty good promo for them. Put the attention on the Horsemen versus the NWO, which I think I like the sound of that. Good stuff here. But then we have this following announcement has been paid for by the NWO segments. I love all of these black and white ones they do. Essentially, the gist of it is the Hogan and the Outsiders are telling the Giant that he is dumb for accepting this match, and Hogan is going to turn the WCW title into the NWO title. I do like near the end of the video, it cuts off, but then you see Sting and Luger in like the production truck, and they're telling them to get it off the air. So Sting also, he gets upset at the production team because he wonders if they were paid off to put the NWO stuff. He's like, why are you putting NWO stuff on WCW television? We will find out later why, but it doesn't make sense to Sting yet why. So Sting gets him to stop it, and he says he's going to stick around to make sure no more trash gets on the air tonight. And he tells Luger, I don't know if you caught this, Jacob. It's a weird combination of food. He tells Luger he has some pot pie and Mountain Dew in his trailer, and then Luger's like, that sounds good.
Pot pie?
But does that sound like a good combo?
Hell no.
Look, well, Sting likes Luger with fit guys, so maybe that's the bodybuilder food right there. But yeah, these videos to turn Hogan, who was totally lame a few weeks ago, to totally cool. So good stuff there. And then Nash and Hall are always cool. So good stuff here. And then we'll go to the sixth match of the night. It is Craig Pittman with Teddy Long versus the Giant with Jimmy Hart.
For the title,
is this a WCW title?
Yes, it is.
This is for the title?
Yep.
So for the WCW title, how did Pittman get a title match?
Right, see, that's like one thing I don't like about WCW. They did title matches every week, but it was with people who had no business getting titles, just like AEW. AEW has a ranking system, but they never listen to it, and they give people who should deserve title matches.
Yeah, why even do it? But not going to waste time because this match is pretty much a choke slam for the win.
Choke slam, done.
Giant goes to choke slam Pittman again after the match, but Teddy Long begs him to stop, and the Giant obliges and he lets him go. But then, instead of choke slamming Pittman again, he grabs Teddy Long and he choke slams him. Teddy, you shouldn't have done that. You should not have done that. You should have let him just go ahead and choke slam Pittman again. But then, of course, this leads to yet another after-match interview. Jimmy Hart tells Hogan that he always told Hogan the truth, but Hogan didn't want to listen to him. But Hogan better listen to him now. And then Mean Gene cuts Jimmy off, mentioning that the limo is moving closer. And Jimmy Hart wraps it up by saying that the Giant will be ready for Hogan. The Giant says before they leave, he says that what he just did sent a message to the world. He tells Hogan that his 15 minutes are up, and he dares Hogan to show up at Hog Wild. Now, the promos are getting better from the Giant.
I liked it. I like it. The crowd seemed into it.
But all right, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and wrap up Raw. We do have promo and then the main event. So we'll go ahead and wrap that up since Raw sucks compared to Nitro. But before the main event, we have a Shawn Michaels pre-recorded promo. Shawn says he is facing adversity and he always comes through. And while he has never said he was invincible and could be beaten any night, but at SummerSlam, Vader will have to face him one-on-one, and Shawn tells Vader he's not coming alone because he has the Click and Jose Lothario with him. Yeah, got the Click. I could see why people turned on Shawn Michaels at the time.
Yep. See, I think that also played into why Sid got so over. They just really wanted Shawn to lose.
But Shawn continues on. He says the deck has been stacked against him, but the WWF title means everything to him, so it's going to take a lot to beat him. And then Shawn gets asked about Bret Hart, and Shawn bullshits and says he says he hopes Bret does return. But yeah, the fact that he said that he wants Bret Hart to return was just bull. Those two knew how to lie on camera, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they did. Still do.
But we will go into the much anticipated Raw main event, and it is the Raw Invitational Battle Royale. This is the #1 contender for the WWF title. And we have a bunch of people in the ring, but the only people who get entrances are Mankind, Ahmed Johnson, Goldust, Psycho Sid, and The Undertaker. So that tells you they're the only ones that have a chance here.
Mm-hmm. Once the match starts, immediately Taker runs after Mankind, and they eliminate themselves, basically eliminate each other. And then they just fight up the entrance ramp. So, right off the bat, you look at who's in the Battle Royal, and you're like, all right, you can kind of get a gauge of who's going to win.
Not a whole lot of championship contenders here. I'm not going to bore you with everything, but I was kind of surprised to see Ahmed Johnson here in this match because last week we had announced that Ahmed had a ruptured kidney. So I was wondering if this was during a taping this is before he ruptured the kidney.
It might be. Oh, I need to talk about Savio Vega. Savio Vega eliminates himself during this match on accident. He does a spinning wheel kick. After doing it, he immediately grabs his head and is frustrated because he screwed it up and he eliminated himself when he wasn't supposed to.
But we'll go ahead and go to the finale here. Sid gave Stone Cold a powerbomb. I thought it looked pretty painful. I'll get a clip of that one. Goldust and Ahmed then eliminate Stone Cold, and then Ahmed Johnson wins by eliminating Goldust. He almost eliminates himself too. I think he does like one of them diving clothesline deals, and he almost falls out. So Ahmed Johnson is the #1 contender to the WWF Championship. And again, they just mentioned that Ahmed Johnson had a ruptured kidney. So at the time, I was wondering, what are they going to do? Because with the ruptured kidney, I don't believe you can be wrestling.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
No, and yeah, unfortunately, he does not. So we will have another match to do the #1 contender.
We will explain that next Raw.
To end Raw, we have an in-ring interview with Ahmed, and Ahmed says even if it is against Shawn Michaels, he will bring his best. But then Farouk comes out, and the two men fight each other as refs and producers try to separate them as Raw ends. So that just lets you know the beef is not over. But that wraps up Raw. We'll go ahead and go to the main event of Nitro, and it is the Nasty Boys versus Sting and Lex Luger. And during the entrances, Scott and Rick Steiner come out to watch their backs to make sure the NWO does not interfere. Is there any spots in this that you like?
Hot tag to Luger, and he goes clothesline crazy. Crowd goes nuts when he starts hitting his clotheslines.
The finish of it is eventually Sags goes to clothesline Luger, but Luger ducks it, and Sags hits Rick Steiner because they were outside the ring. And Rick then hits Sags.
Oh, yeah, he hits the Steiner liner. He hit the Steiner liner, right?
Yeah. No DQ. I guess the ref missed it. And then Luger rolls Sags into the ring, and then Sting puts Sags in the Scorpion Deathlock for the win.
Standard TV main event match.
Yeah. Still better than what WWF was putting on Raw. So, but we will end this Nitro with an interview as well with Sting and Lex Luger. There were two kids in a ring with Luger, but as they're standing there talking, Mean Gene mentions the limo again. And Sting asks Luger if he thinks the NWO could be in there this time. Luger kind of scoffs at him and says, "No way." That's kind of funny. I like.
I know. They're like, he's like, should we go over this?
Yeah, they kind of just playing coy. It's just funny. But so they eventually go to the limo and see what's inside. They open the door again, but then a bag gets thrown out at them, and then the limo speeds off. Sting picks up the bag. We see, I guess that ended the normal Nitro because we then get what is on the WWE Network. They call it an after show exclusive. So I don't know if people at the time saw it or not, but what happens on there is that Sting opens the bag, and what's in the bag is a note that says, "Ray was right. There are 4 guys, or are there 5? See you in Sturgis." And Sturgis is where the pay-per-view is going to be. The NWO is kind of teasing them, saying, how many members are there? It could be 4, 5, 6, 7. Who knows? So I like that. You know, you don't know who's NWO and who's not. But that is that for both shows. I mean, again, it'd be a broken record, but I think it's clear and obvious that WCW wins again.
The ratings was Nitro, of course, since we're in the streak, 3 to 2.8. So WWF was really close. This is 8 weeks now into the streak. So
I don't know how, because we got dog shit for matches today. But yeah, for WWE, I mean, what was really that interesting? What did they set up?
The main event.
A match. Well, yeah, they set up a match between Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, and that match isn't even going to happen. So this is really a failure of a show. And the tag team stuff that we have, no one cares. The feud between King and Jake the Snake, I like King's barbs, but you're not really looking forward to the match.
No.
So I think Raw was a complete failure. For WCW, of course, we got the Horsemen versus NWO kind of feud building. Sting and Lex Luger and Macho Man involved with them. They just have a lot more things going on. I mean, sure, there's not that many mid-card stories going on right now, but the NWO, with it being so fresh, should dominate the show. Yeah.
WCW has an aura to it right now.
We'll go into Hog Wild, and that is August 10th of 1996.
I looked up #1 movie. Just to get a frame of reference for people, it was Jack, the Robin Williams movie. I believe the #1 song on the billboards is the Macarena.
If no one has seen Hog Wild before, it is a unique venue.
Yeah, unique. Yeah, very unique clientele or group of people as well. As we'll
yes. But it's a unique venue. I don't think I like it per se, but it's quite a
very
jarring view to see a wrestling match and then green fields behind it and trees.
And you don't see like a ton of, well, I mean, you see people, but it's not a lot of them. There's no chairs. They're sitting on their motorcycle. At least most of them are.
And you can see people camped out like at RVs and stuff. It's unique.
This is what I like that WCW did, the WWF didn't really do. They had a lot of unique venues sometimes, like the ring will be in the middle of a pool, you know, just stuff like that. It just kind of breaks up the monotony every once in a while.
But we'll go ahead and go to the first match, and it is the Ultimate Dragon with Sonny Ono versus Rey Mysterio Jr., and this is for the WCW Cruiserweight title. And the entranceway is unique as well. It is pretty much a gravel road. Sonny Ono looks like a dork. He comes out in a biker outfit, and it just looks funny on him.
Did you see Shivani though on commentary?
Oh yeah, I did.
He had like the cutouts and like the fake tattoos, and I can't remember if it was Dusty or Bobby, but they were like ribbing him. I guarantee you they thought he just was absolutely ridiculous.
There was a whole lot of denim going on over there.
Whole lot of denim.
During this match, Ultimate Dragon, he puts a figure 4 on Rey Mysterio, and I just thought to myself, how many people in the WCW do the figure 4? It's just ridiculous. That's the only move I can think of that people did that.
A lot.
Did that too.
A lot.
The choke's going to be the second closest one. But again, I mentioned before, the ring is on kind of like a platform. So if you fall out of the ring, you could also then fall off of that platform. So you can essentially fall off twice, which I mentioned that because that's what happens here. Rey Mysterio does a baseball slide to Ultimate Dragon, and he falls off of the platform. And then Rey jumps from the ring onto Dragon. So he jumps pretty far to get to him. I thought it looked pretty good.
That was pretty impressive.
And then throughout the match, there were a couple of times where it looked like Dragon had the match won, but when the ref goes to count to 3, Dragon breaks the pin because he wants to dish out some more punishment.
I would mention this is Rey Mysterio's first match since being lawn darted. So, they're like, how's he going to be?
This was a fun match. Rey Mysterio wins the match with a top rope hurricanrana. I will also mention that the honking from the motorcycles was very annoying to me.
Yeah, and it's not gonna stop.
So yeah, if you don't like that, it's going to be really irritating for you for the rest of the show.
It works really well in one match, and we'll get to it.
Yes. But yeah, this was a good match. At this point, I had started rating the matches now. I give it a 3 out of 5, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
After this match, I'll mention this quickly. Mean Gene is shelling out the WCW hotline, but that's not important. What is important is the ridiculous denim vest that Mean Gene is wearing. It is crazy to see him not wearing a suit, and he looks really off.
I don't like it.
Like, that's not right. It's just not. But our second match, we have Scott Norton versus Ice Train. Ice Train comes taped up, but throughout the match, Norton targets those ribs, and then he eventually unwraps them. I'll go ahead and get to the finish for this one, too. Norton beats Ice Train. He puts him in an arm bar for the win.
Yeah, he works the arm over pretty much all match, and then eventually he applies the arm bar.
Ice Train has that injured shoulder. Yeah, because it's injured shoulder. The internet really hated it. I liked it more.
It worked because it was what I expected it to be, and I liked it. It doesn't, we don't have to have ring technician master classes. We don't have to have a Benoit D. Malenko every time.
No, we don't.
I don't put my head, I hope they put a 5-star banger. I'm like, no, I'm looking for the story. And the story was he worked over the injured shoulder until he got the arm bar. I loved it. It was great. I gave it a 2.
Yeah, I thought it worked. I gave it a 2 as well. It was this match that I noticed that Scott Norton always has his tongue sticking out.
I've also told you how he sells when he takes moves or gives up moves. You'll pick up on it. And
then I would note or critique Scott Norton. Some of the kicks he was dishing out or the stomps on a downed Ice Train, they were very weak. Put some effort into it.
Yeah.
But we'll continue on. After the match, we have a pre-recorded video with Ric Flair. Flair talks about how much he and Arn have done for this business and in this business. Flair says that he has decided that the Horsemen and the NWO could coexist, but he has now changed his mind due to the attack on Arn. Flair says the WCW is part of his family and he will stand up for it. He then says that the NWO is trying to take over the WCW, but he warns the NWO that the two companies cannot both survive, and he tells the NWO to go to bed with that tonight. So he's pretty much telling them that we're going to war.
It's wartime, buddy.
Let's go ahead and get this classic out of the way. We have Bull Nakano, recently WWE Hall of Fame inductee. Congratulations.
Well deserved.
Indeed, it was. She comes out with Sonny Ono, and this is against Medusa. And the stipulation to this match is that the winner gets to destroy the other person's motorcycle. Both competitors come out with motorcycles, blah, blah, blah. Nakano, she does this routinely in her matches with Medusa, but she throws Medusa by her hair, and she whips her around so good. It looks really painful.
I think it is.
Yeah, it looks really rough. I would not want that done to me.
This match kind of loses the crowd because at one point during it, they chant Harley, I guess, for Harley Davidson. They're revving their engines. Which honestly is disrespectful because Medusa and Bull Nakano, those are good matches.
So at one point, though, Bobby Heenan made me laugh. Nakano gets Medusa in a hold, and Bobby Heenan calls that the Japanese pretzel. So at one point, here's the finish. Nakano hits a backdrop on Medusa for a 2 count. But then he continues on and counts to 3. So what happens is Sonny Ono and Nakano think they won the match because she did a backdrop, the ref counted to 3. Okay, yeah, pretty simple. And we thought it too. There's nothing to indicate that Bull Nakano lost this match.
Yeah.
But the ref ruled that the Bull Nakano's shoulders were down and Medusa's weren't. So Medusa's the winner. First of all, as a damn lie, Medusa was down for a 3, clear as day. So
maybe one of the shoulders might have been slightly up, but I don't know. It wasn't like definite.
Yeah, the camera angle they gave us on it made it look clear that Medusa lost. And it seemed like the wrestlers and the announcers didn't even know the match had ended because the wrestlers are kind of looking around and they're like, do we continue? Do we not?
But I mean, I think Medusa had to win the match because of what happened after.
Yeah, I know. But Sonny Ono and Bull Nakano think they won, so they go out there to hit the bike. But Medusa stops them. Then she takes out her sledgehammer and she hits Sonny Ono's bike a couple of times, but she really honestly didn't do that much damage.
She didn't do a lot of damage until she started. Eventually, she gave up on the hammer and started ripping some of the front off with her hands.
I just love this finish because it just exemplifies the whole Medusa run. It is a clusterfuck and just a.
And it shouldn't be. This is just they could have turned her into something, I think.
But didn't like it. I gave it a 1 out of 5. But after the match, we see Rick and Scott Steiner at the computers for the CompuServe thing they do, kind of like WWE does. But I think it's just funny seeing the Steiners at computers because I just can't imagine them using it, especially at this time. And Rick Steiner is just being there being an idiot. He's playing a game and he's making like motor noises. I don't understand this dude. But then we have, I think it's match of the night.
Easily.
It is Dean Malenko versus Chris Benoit with Woman and Miss Elizabeth. Now, we're definitely not going to go blow by blow on this one because this is a long match, people. Long match.
Benoit has a nice quick scoot slam on there. I love it. His diving headbutt, obviously at this time, he was laying in them headbutts. The headbutt to Malenko.
Oh, yeah, I have it noted too, but that diving headbutt looked pretty painful. Of course,
Also,
he hits his head for real.
Benoit has the Northern Lights on Dean Malenko with the perfect toe tip.
Mm.
You can see that the heel of his foot never touches the floor the whole time.
But Benoit also later on hits a beauty of a released German suplex. But the match continues on, and we get a 5-minute warning. So I think you know where this is going. We eventually get a time limit draw. Right as Malenko had Benoit in a pin as time expired, both men want to continue the match, so the ref says we will have an additional 5 minutes. The match continues on for another 5 minutes, and again the time limit expires, but we get another 5-minute overtime. And at this point, the crowd is definitely tired of this match, and they start to boo, which is a shame because this was a damn good match.
But this isn't the crowd that's going to understand fine wrestling.
No.
This is the wrong crowd for this kind of match.
Mm-hmm. But during the double overtime, Woman tries to interfere, but Malenko grabs her arm, which allows Benoit to get a schoolboy pin for the win, and then Malenko looks very sad that he lost. So very good match, double overtime, so it is a long match. But it was a technical wrestling masterpiece, a match of the year contender for me. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. So good stuff there. But we'll go into, I think, the crowd's favorite match of the night. It is Harlem Heat with Sensational Sherry and Colonel Robert Parker versus the Steiner Brothers in a WCW Tag Team title match.
The crowd really does not like the Harlem Heat, and it is very easy to determine why that is.
Would you say the Harlem Heat have a lot of heat with the crowd?
Yeah, if you want to see good crowd work and pissing off a crowd, just look at this match. Harlem Heat plays to the crowd a lot, but the crowd hate them. So they were revving up their engines and doing everything they can. Just like they were really upset at the Harlem Heat.
The crowd there is all over them all match, but it made for an exciting match because the crowd was 100% into this match. They ate up everything the Steiners did to him. Scott Steiner hit a massive belly-to-belly at one point, and the crowd went crazy for that. They really want to see these Steiner brothers get the dub. At one point, it's a funny moment. Rick Steiner is in the ring working Booker T over, and Sister Sherry yells at Rick Steiner, and Rick Steiner shouts back, "Get up!" No, he didn't. And the crowd heard it too, so they popped for that too.
Yeah.
Every time the Harlem Heat get on offense, the crowd then start to rev their motorcycle engines to piss off the Harlem Heat. That was fun. And during this match is when the sun was finally starting to set, which made things look a little better. And for the finish to this match, we see Sherry and Colonel Robert Parker jump on the apron.
Yeah, it's a heat match, so you know it's coming.
Yep. And with Colonel Parker, he makes mistakes routinely, so he accidentally throws powder in Booker T's face, and this is right as Sherry throws powder in Scott Steiner's face. But Parker makes up for his mistake. He hits Scott Steiner with his cane, which allows Booker T to get the pin, and the crowd is very upset that the Harlem Heat won, and they start throwing all sorts of stuff at them.
I love that they had Harlem Heat win. That was awesome.
Yep. The finish, I didn't care too much for Parker hitting Booker T in the face because it didn't lead to anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it just felt overdone. We don't need to do that much, okay? Just throw the powder in Scott Steiner's face, call it a day. We don't need the double powder. But yeah, I like the match. And after it, we do see WCW wrestlers in Sturgis. And I only mention that because we get the return of Pepe, and he has a biker outfit and a helmet on. And then Mongo tells us that Pepe is ready for the Outsiders. And I don't know about you, Jacob, but I would love to see a Pepe versus the Outsiders in a handicap match.
I don't think Pepe could have won that one.
You don't think so?
Nope.
See, I think you're just a Pepe hater.
I think you're just a Chihuahua owner.
Wow. Can't believe you say this.
I said it.
We will go to the sixth match of the night, and it is a U.S. title match between Eddie Guerrero and Ric Flair. And when Ric Flair comes out, he tells the camera that the girls have a motorcycle right here, and he's pointing to himself. 1,200 cc's, he says. I don't know what that means, but I assume that means something really good.
Maybe a lot of horsepower, I don't know.
We're not motorcycle people, sorry. During this match, something funny happens. One of the overhead lights shuts off, so there are parts of the match that are pretty dark.
I thought that was interesting about technical difficulties.
I mean, they're in the middle of a field, essentially, so I can see it. Of course, with the Ric Flair match, he has to have the figure four put on him as well. But Flair goes to the ropes, so he gets out of it. We do also see Ric Flair's pasty white ass again.
Yeah, we see a lot of Flair's butt. That was, lovely. Lovely.
Yeah, thanks for that, Eddie. Thanks. But later on, Eddie hits the frog splash, but he can't make the cover because he hits his leg on the mat and he grabs his knee. So Ric Flair gets back on the offensive. He gets the figure 4 on to Eddie, and Woman helps Flair get some extra leverage. And Eddie is once again pinned by the figure 4.
3 straight singles matches where Eddie's pinned by the figure 4. It's interesting. It's really interesting.
And I think most of the time, Woman or Miss Elizabeth are helping him too as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, so I gave this a 3 out of 5. I would have liked a better build to the match, but the match was still very good. And I thought they told a good story throughout the match. Having a repetitive finish does get kind of annoying. I thought Eddie looked good here, so I thought it worked for him. And of course, Ric Flair's not going to lose the title this soon.
Yeah, I agree. I do like the whole Eddie knee injury thing because I'm like, yeah, that could happen. And that did happen with Guerrero, but not his knee. It was his arm in WWF. So, it was just nice. It was a nice way to get Guerrero to take a pin, but then they could just say, oh, he had a freak injury.
So good stuff. But after that, we do get an interview with Jimmy Hart and the Giant. And the Giant tells Hogan that what's on his mind is betrayal. He says he was the biggest Hulk Hogan fan growing up.
That line irked me because they did this whole thing about him being Andre's son and doing the whole feud with Hogan, but now all of a sudden he grew up a big fan of him. Like, fuck out of here. Yeah, you're treating your audience as dumb and they forgot. I didn't forget.
I agreed that irked you too because that line took me completely out of the rest of the promo because I'm going to call bullshit about that because y'all were just feuding not even a year ago. It was in October y'all were feuding and you got pushed off a damn building and almost died and yet you were the biggest Hulk. No, I don't think so.
He had promos about wanting revenge for his father. Like,
that's so phony. It wasn't needed either. We didn't need to even go there because this is the first time that has ever been mentioned.
They basically retconned Giant's whole, storyline.
Yeah, so we didn't like that. But the Giant continues on. He says he saw Hogan's true colors before anyone else did, and tonight he's going to stick his hand around Hogan's neck and squeeze him till his eyes pop out, and he would choke slam him through the ring. And he ends the promo by saying, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, he is going to lay Hulk Hogan to rest. Didn't quite rhyme.
Were you trying to rhyme there, Giant?
But next, we get a big match with a second to last match. It is the Outsiders versus Sting and Lex Luger. Thankfully, this time when the Outsiders come out, they come out to the NWO music, not that stock music they came out to last time.
Oh, yeah, not the stock music. So that's nice.
To me, this match had a big match feel. I thought they did a great job building to this match.
Yeah, I agree.
For the match, something interesting happens and may play to a storyline here soon. Kevin Nash pats referee Nick Patrick on the backside and does a let's go gesture. Are they in cahoots?
Cahoots?
Nash and Hall, they have a hard time deciding who gets into the ring first, so they settle it in a good old-fashioned rock, scissors, paper battle. They tie at first, but in the second round, Scott Hall wins. He has scissors beating paper. That is groundbreaking analysis here. You only get at the Wrestling Rewind.
Yes.
But before locking up, Scott Hall flicks his toothpick to Sting. But yeah, it's a good back and forth match. Not exactly fast paced. Some people get worked over for a little bit, but I think they told a good story. Sting gets a Scorpion Deathlock on Nash on the outside of the ring. They're fighting each other outside. Luger is inside the ring with Scott Hall. He gets a power slam on him, and then what does he do after he gets a power slam? He sets up for the torture rack, baby. He calls for the rack.
So he lifts Hall up, but then Nick Patrick stumbles, and it looks like he chop blocks some, but misses. Maybe he didn't mean to do it. And then Hall falls on top of Luger, and then we get a fast count.
Are you sure it was fast?
Oh, it was quite fast. But so the commentators act shocked, and then they were confused. So
yeah, this is the start of course, Nick Patrick being the NWO referee. But yep, Sting and Lex Luger are obviously dejected as Nick Patrick raises the hands of the NWO. So this was a decent match. I was expecting a little bit more. Of course, I knew it wasn't going to end clean because, you can probably count on one hand how many NWO matches end clean. But it wasn't bad, and it's a start of a storyline that's not actually, it was actually done better than I thought it was going to be with the Nick Patrick being the NWO ref. I thought it was going to be hokey. I think they did it well. So I will also note that this is the 5th match in a row that didn't end clean.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they're addicted to it. They're addicted.
But we also have another match here that was a big match feel, and it's the main event. And it was Hollywood Hogan versus the Giant with Jimmy Hart for the WCW title. And we have Michael Buffer out for the announcements. When you see Michael Buffer, you see all these bugs all around him.
Yeah.
There are so many damn flies swarming around him. I'm surprised they didn't go up in his mouth. But Hollywood Hogan comes out and he's got the full NWO garb on, like with the lightning bolts and everything. And I thought it took a little bit longer for him to get to that point. So I was pleased to see that the look was there from the beginning.
I thought it was funny that Buffer clarified that Hogan was wearing all black now and not red and yellow. I don't know why he said that because it's obvious to us that he's wearing black. But yeah.
Of course, the match in the beginning is Hogan going in the ring, out the ring, stalling. I know a lot of people don't like it. I didn't mind it because Hogan's playing a chicken shit heel, so it's fine.
This match gets a lot of shit online. I don't get it.
We did see a moment where it gets reversed on Hogan, where the Giant hulks up, and he does the whole deal. I
didn't like that.
No, it is cheesy as hell. But Jacob, he was a Hulk Hogan fan from birth.
Apparently.
So Giant does the Hulk Hogan punches, he does the big boot, and then he motions for the choke slam. And this is when Scott Hall comes out. He comes to the top rope, tries to jump on the Giant. Giant sees it. He knocks Hall down, and then he goes to choke slam Scott Hall. But then Nash sneaks up behind the Giant, and he goes to hit him with Jimmy Hart's megaphone, but the Giant choke slams Nash. But then Hogan hits the Giant with the title belt for the win.
So 6 matches not clean in a row?
Yep. They just couldn't finish. I think every match but the opening was through some nefarious actions. But yep, so Hollywood Hogan has won the WCW title belt. So the NWO has taken the WCW's most prized possession. And the NWO is celebrating in the ring, and the crowd is starting to throw all sorts of trash into the ring. And then we see Booty Man walk out with a birthday cake, because it is actually Hulk Hogan's birthday.
I thought I was like, oh, I agree with that. I was like, oh, it actually is.
So then we get an after-match promo from Hogan. Hogan starts thanking the Booty Man for being his friend for 20 years. He tells the Booty Man he loves him like his own blood. And he says, seeing him in the NWO shirt is something special. Pouring his heart out to his best friend of 20 years. But Hogan says that there's something everyone has to learn, and it's the reason why the NWO is so powerful, and it is because they do not mix friendship with business or pleasure. So Hogan tells Flair that they attacked the WCW for a reason, and he tells Flair that Flair showed his down card by showing he has a soft spot for Arn Anderson. I think you can see where this is going. Hogan tells Flair that Booty Man has been his friend for so long, and he shakes Booty Man's hand. He goes to turn to his friend, and he's about to formally introduce him as a member of the NWO, and he tells Booty Man he has a surprise for him. So the surprise is that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall attack Booty Man from behind, and then Hogan jumps in and he just beat the shit out of him, which I fully support.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic.
And Hogan gets the mic back after beating Booty Man down, and he tells Flair that if he would do that to his best friend, then what does Flair think he would do to him? Nash hands Hogan a can of spray paint, and then Hogan sprays NWO on the WCW title and officially crowns it the NWO heavyweight title. He defaced the WCW's most prized possession.
The best looking title in history.
Yeah, and it's a famous image of him holding the title like that. But I will say that during this whole after-match promo, which probably takes upwards of 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's just a while.
The Giant is in the middle of the ring the whole time.
Yep. They should have, why didn't that roll him out?
Mm-hmm. So that was really weird to see him just laying there. But I like the promo. I was very happy that the Booty Man did not get to the NWO at this point. I know he comes later. But I was worried that the Booty Man would be in there because I don't know all the members of the NWO. There's so many of them. Yeah. So I was worried for a second. But like I said, like you said, the internet hates this match. I think most of the time I see it rated like maybe a half a star, 1 out of 5. I give it a 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, that's fair.
I will agree that the match is nothing special. The crowd was good, though. That always helps. And I don't mind the stalling from Hogan because that's just what he does. That's his character.
It's called getting heat.
Mm-hmm. And it works. But this show as a whole for Hog Wild was a better show than I thought it would be. Dean Malenko versus Chris Benoit was the best match of the night.
Yeah.
But the two main events that we had tonight were all about getting the NWO over, and I think they did a great job laying the groundwork for the NWO invasion storyline that we're about to have. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I gave it a 6.5.
I mean, that's practically the same.
Yeah.
All right, that will do it.